Hello and welcome to Audio Gyan, an Indian podcast for those interested in design, philosophy and arts. Audio Gyan documents thoughts, ideas and insights from known and unknown gems of India who have done some remarkable work in their field of interest. Visit audiogyan.com for more Gyan sessions. Today I have Gangadharan Menon with me on Audio Gyan. Gangadharan Menon gave up advertising after a successful stint of 28 years. He worked in agencies like Trikaya, Rediffusion, Ogilvy and Mather, Mudra, Chlorophyll and more. He decided to wind up his advertising journey to take up his first and second love, which is teaching and travel. He now teaches at Rachana Sansad College of Applied Arts, Mumbai and does travel photography and writing. His articles have been published in the Hindu, the Times of India, DNA, Hindustan Times, Midday, and in Hornbill, the journal of Bombay Natural History Society. Through his writing, he encourages people to discover the joy of traveling in India, a country that is made up of multiple countries. Thank you, Ganga sir, for giving us your time and welcome to Audio Gyan.
Thank you.
So we'll be exploring today is medium really the message? Since you have worked on multiple mediums and have better idea about various mediums in its true sense, we hope to have some sort of a philosophical conversation where we can understand medium messages and what it communicates through it, right? So I'll first start with the first thing, which is a Canadian professor, philosopher, Marshall McLuhan wrote a phrase in his book. The book was called Understanding Media, the Extension of Man, which was published in like 1964. So in his book, he said medium is the message. So what does this mean according to you, or in general, what meaning does it convey?
This was propounded by McLuhan himself, and he gave a very beautiful example to communicate medium is the message. That example is the light bulb. So he said the light is not the message. The light bulb is the medium and the message together.
Okay.
Because the light is not communicating anything, a different content. It is just existing. So by its existence, light would be being thrown on different objects and will be lit up differently.
Correct.
But the light is the same. So, but light is not the message. Light is only the medium through which meanings are exposed. So that was an example which he himself gave. And he said light also helps in lighting up different areas of darkness.
Correct.
So it is the same light, but the darkness is being lit differently. So that was an example which he gave. The light bulb is the classic example of medium is the message.
But how does that fit in the advertising context?
I can give you an example which is a very paradoxical example. In Marathi there is a saying ki kaya dagdavarchi resh, or in English you would say cast in stone, which basically refers to the 10 commandments which were written in stone. I saw a beautiful poster which was actually engraved on stone, and it simply said, nothing is written in stone.
Oh wow.
So very beautifully it is contradicting itself. The statement itself is written in stone and it says nothing is written in stone. So it is actually the medium of the stone is communicating in a way that nothing is final, nothing is permanent, nothing is, you can't put a period after anything. Another example of how medium differs is a very beautiful film called Rashomon by Kurosawa. It is one of my all-time favorite films. I've seen it some 7 or 8 times, and every time I find something new in it. It is simply an incident which is recounted by 5 different people in 5 different ways. 2 were actually part of that, and 3 were witnesses.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
But each one gives a different version of the incident, and you don't know what is true. And because it is in film, and film is the classic example of reality. Once Godard was asked what is cinema, he said it is reality at 24 frames per second. So when it happens really in front of you. So every time a version is coming up in the film, you believe it to be true. But then the second guy comes and says, no, this is not how it happened. I was there and this is how it happened. And then you believe that. And 5 times you keep changing your opinion because you don't know which one to believe. And at the end, you really don't know which is right and which is wrong. And because the medium was cinema, you could easily carry it forward and you could make it believable. Because when it happens in a dark theater, in a dark auditorium, on the screen, you believe it to be real.
Correct.
What is called a suspension of disbelief. You don't disbelieve what is happening. You suspend your disbelief and say, no, this is real. But the same interesting, what I want to tell you is, interestingly, the same theme of Rashomon was presented on stage by Amol Palekar. He presented a theatrical version of Rashomon and it failed. Because in cinema, you suspend your disbelief, you believe it to be real, but on stage, you know it is acting, you know it is drama, you know it is theatrical. There is not enough suspension of disbelief to believe 5 different versions. Wow. So it's a classic example of how the same subject differed in different media. So in cinema, it was believable, in theatre, it was not believable. Because the theme itself does not lend itself to theatre. So it's a very interesting example again of how another way. And,
in fact, that puts Godard's other point, which is cinema is the biggest fraud also.
Yes.
Obviously connects there.
Correct. Because that again brings me to another concept of medium. Before Eisenstein, the filmmaker, Sergei Eisenstein, the Russian master, he discovered montage. There was only one concept, which was real time. So if I'm holding a glass in my hand and I hold it high and I drop it, there is a time taken for me to release my fingers and for the glass to come down and fall on the ground and to crash.
Correct.
There is a real time. So whatever happens in real time, it is recorded.
Correct.
That was the concept till Sergei Eisenstein came into filmmaking. And that was very interesting because he did not discover it on purpose. He discovered it by accident. What happened was, because of the World War, long strips of films were not available. So you could not take long shots. Correct. As Griffith used to take, or other filmmakers used to take. You had to take short shots of the film or of an incident. So willy-nilly, what happened was Eisenstein discovered a method by which the same action of releasing a glass from your fingers and it falling down and crashing would be taken from 8 different angles.
Okay.
So what normally would have taken 1.5 minutes was enhanced or dramatized to cover whole of 6 minutes. So it became dramatic. So the real time was extended to something called cinema time. So cinema time was unreal time. Because in reality it would have never taken that much time. Because you see it from a top angle, from a low angle, from a side angle, from the left, right, and different angles of the same incident, you keep adding to it and you keep increasing the dramatic nature of the incident. This was later used very interestingly by Hitchcock. He had a very nice statement to make. He said the terror is not in the blast, but in the expectation of the blast.
Anticipation.
In the anticipation of the blast. Wo tension hai na, that can be built up only with montage. That can be built up only by extending real time into cinema time. So there itself, you are now, the medium itself is changing the truth or changing reality. So that medium itself has now become the message. Extending the same thought, like for example, say once upon a time before television, and it interestingly, McLuhan kind of had the foresight to see all this happening much before it actually happened. Because, say for example, a terror attack. Before television, the thing would be reported the next day as if something happened, and it would be kind of reporting what happened. So then you would imagine what would have happened and your imagination would go into overdrive, and then you will imagine all that happened. In television, the same thing is captured live, and that terror attack literally becomes a reality TV. So there again, the medium is completely different and the message is completely different. So an incident that happened is either reported or incident that is happening is shown live. So the whole thing of converting reality into a reality TV is the medium that is doing it.
Interesting. Yeah. So I've come up with few questions which are related to overall medium or the message in general. So this is kind of an abstract question, but what does a word mean to you? Because you play a lot with words, and so what does a word mean to you?
Word actually is very, very interesting because it opens a whole lot of possibilities. Any word to begin with has what Pula Deshpande had called the synonym or the dictionary meaning, the lexicon ka meaning, the lexicographic meaning, which would be what I call the denotation of the word. Say, for example, a word like gas. So there are three stages of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. So in that context, gas is something which is like a vapor, which is volatile. But that is the dictionary meaning of gas. But when you say this man has a lot of gas, it means he is a gas bag. He is saying things which are, inflated. So that is what is I call the connotation of the word.
Correct.
By usage, you have added a different meaning altogether to the original gas. So the gas has a meaning in the dictionary. That is the denotative meaning, and then there is a connotative meaning which has happened because of usage. So the same gas, he has become a gas bag, or he is a lot of gas. Yeah, don't believe him. So he is not real. He is not grounded. He is not. The same thing like Hawa. I was thinking of in the Indian context or Hindi word Hawa. Hawa is breeze. Hawa is wind. But iski Hawa chali. Ki this is now gaining currency. This is ye chalta hai. No, this is happening. This is so the same word Hawa. It has two different meanings in Hawa, the wind or the breeze, or iski Hawa chal rahi hai.
So like how does that connect with the medium is the message? Coming back to the same thing, because your word is the medium, right?
Correct.
And the message it is conveying itself is sometimes ironical, sometimes lot more context.
Yeah.
So
here the medium would be the context of the word. So there is no real meaning. So it is in which context have you used. I can use a word which is actually very interesting, but it is more symbolic in nature, or the difference is symbolic in nature rather than the meaning of the word itself. Because both would mean the same thing. One is in English, owl, O-W-L, owl. Owl in the Western philosophy is the wise owl. Okay, owl ka translation है उल्लू, but यहाँ पे उल्लू का पट्टा is an idiot. It is exactly the opposite. The same word and the same translation of the same bird in two different contexts, because the cultures are different, the meanings are different. So here again, medium has changed the language has changed the meaning. Exactly the opposite. Wise owl and ullu ka patta. It is not even, both are mediocre. Two extremes. Yeah.
So, what is the ontological connection between words and like existence of different things?
See, Sanskrit, according to me, is one of the most beautiful languages in the world. Because not only is it mathematical or scientific, probably it is the only language, and I've heard it is the only language where syntax does not matter. Syntax is, as you know, the order of words in a sentence.
Correct.
So, I am going there. If I use the same words and I say, am I going there, meaning is completely different. One is a statement, the other is a question.
Yeah.
In Sanskrit, the meaning doesn't change. Aham tatra gacchami, gacchami aham tatra, tatra aham gacchami. Say it in any sequence, it means exactly the same. So syntax does not matter. So in that sense, it is very scientific, and they say it is supposed to be the most scientific language for computing. But because it is not a popular language, it has never become. But they say it is so scientific that it can become the best language for computing. Apart from that, Sanskrit has a very interesting connection between things and words. I'll start with names of gods. Okay. Say Saraswati. She is the goddess of learning. If you split the words, Saras means gentle. Vati, that which flows. Okay. Saraswati means she who flows gently. And knowledge flows gently. It cannot come in spurts. It has to come from a higher level to a lower level. Water can only flow from a higher level to a lower level. So, which is why in Marathi we have Vyaspeeth, because the guy who's speaking is at a higher plane. That's why he can speak and it can flow down to the people who are in the auditorium. Now the same guy, when I teach in my college, when my student goes and stands on the podium, I come and sit in the auditorium, because then he becomes the Vyas, I am receiving and he is sending. So the sender has to be at a higher plane than the receiver, because it is flowing of language. Saraswati, that which flows gently. So look at the beauty of the word and the meaning of the word, or the symbol of the word. Or the what it stands for. Yeah. And that is true of all the gods. Now, Krishna. Krishna is supposed to have been a great lover, and he had 16,008 wives. But you can't blame him, because his name means he who attracts. Kru means he who attracts. Kru is attraction. So uska naam hi aisa hai. I mean, by name he has to attract people. So he is born to attract. Vishnu comes from the root word Visha. Visha is like poison. It spreads across the body and across the universe. So Vishnu, he is he who has pervaded the universe. So it is there in the name. Shiva, the meaning of Shiva, and Shiva is actually the antithesis of everything.
Correct.
If there is Krishna is beautiful, he is ugly. He has snake on his head, he has matted hair, he has got ash of the crematorium smeared on his face, and he has got blue neck. It is the opposite of every conceivable beautiful thing. But Shiva means that which is not. The meaning of the word is that which is not. So his entire existence is the opposite of everything. So look at the beautiful connection of God's names and words and what they stand for, or what they are supposed to stand for. This extends from gods, it extends to culture, interestingly. Now, if you, my sister is abroad, she is in the US. If you have to go and meet her, you have to take an appointment with her. You have to call her and say, I am planning to come to your house on Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock. Can I come? Because you are a guest there. Okay. So you have to take an appointment. In India, you don't have to take any appointment. You just land up, because you are a tithi. A tithi means he who doesn't, or she who doesn't have a date or a time.
Tithi,
Tithi nahi hai jiska. A tithi. So you can land up anytime. And we say Atithi Devo Bhava, because he will land anytime. He will land on any day. But it is there in the word. So the beauty is there is a beautiful connection between culture and word. Another one. Suppose your laptop has become old. You will call it an old laptop. Or your mic has become old. You will call it an old mic. Or your chair has become an old chair. You will call it an old chair. Old table. Similarly, in the English language, a person becomes old, you call him an old man or an old woman, and you send him or her to an old home, because it is like an object. Because like a chair, like a computer, like a table, the man has become old. उसका utility खत्म हो गया, तो उसको old home में भेजो. लेकिन इंडिया में in Sanskrit or even in any Indian language, Malayalam, Marathi, Hindi, Vruddha is the word for old man or old person. Vruddha comes from the word Vruddhi, which is progress. He who has progressed in life, not he who has become old. So this is a person who has progressed in life. This is a person who has seen much more than you. This is a person who has much more experience than you. So you will, like an antique, you will keep that person at home, na? You will not send that person to an old home. So we look after our grandparents and our grandchildren will hopefully look after us because of that concept of sharing something which they will never be able to get on their own. They will take that many more years.
Yeah, yeah.
So I tell my students the best way to learn is from others' mistakes. Because how many mistakes can you personally make? लिमिटेशन है तो लर्न फ्रॉम अदर्स मिस्टेक्स
पॉइंटलेस भी है मतलब
पॉइंटलेस भी है पूरा जिंदगी निकल जाएगा वही मिस्टेक्स करने में विच इज व्हाई वी लुक एट आवर पीपल विद सो मच ऑफ रिस्पेक्ट because he has made a mistake which I need not make. I can still make it, but I can if I want I can learn from it and avoid it. So this is the whole thing of vruddhi. Vruddhi is progress.
Wow, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's super. So I think one has to like really like keep thinking about this words and connections to like find their meanings.
Yes.
Cool. And this was actually like one of the articles which I read, which shows a pipe and it says, "This is not a pipe." So, like, what does the artist want to communicate through it? Like, is the word not enough to explain what it is, or the word itself is not that thing? How does that work? So, how do you find meaning of a word?
See, especially in the context of words and visuals, where you are giving a title, say for example, to a pipe, and there is no point in saying pipe under a pipe.
Yeah.
There is no point in writing apple under an apple.
Yeah.
If you show an apple and write Macintosh, it makes sense. Because you are giving another angle to it. So don't repeat. So don't show Gandhi, father of the nation, and write Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. Write Richard Attenborough. Then there is a layer you are adding. So don't repeat what is said in the visual. Try and give it another angle. Try and give it another twist. Try and give it a third meaning. Because one of the definitions of creativity is to connect two unconnected things. So show a parrot and say beetle leaf, because the parrot has got a red beak. So imagine the beauty of showing a parrot with a red beak and saying beetle leaf किंवा पान मराठीमध्ये किंवा पान किंवा पान खाल्लेला व्यक्ती वगैरे whatever. So don't repeat exactly what is written, seen in the visual, which is obvious. Give an unobvious angle to it.
So, like a creative person's challenge will be to find those meanings hidden in the object.
Those unconnected connections, no, which were hitherto unconnected. इसके पहले कोई connection नहीं किया. You show a sunflower and write sunflower, नहीं. Show a sunflower and say smiley.
That's a connection. Yeah, interesting. Cool. I think there's this one last question which was more towards your like 28 years of advertising background, and I wanted to know that in not very old, but like in the recent years, the overall quality of lines which are coming up from the advertising world, right? Those are not really that strong or hard hitting as we had Khaitan, Sabse Tez or Hamara Bajaj. So what has happened in the recent time? Is the truth missing, or is the power of writing missing, or the depth of words is missing, or the medium is getting diluted? What exactly is happening right now? And how can we probably improve in the terms of like good copy, good writing, good words in our vocabulary than going LOL?
Yeah. If I can put it, I'll have to borrow somebody else's words, and he is a wonderful guy, a friend. His name is Syed Mirza. He's a filmmaker. He had said it very beautifully. What is missing in our lives today is the poetry. The poetry is missing. Wow. We are missing the poetry, we are missing the poets. And day by day, or maybe every year, the number of poets in the world, and definitely in India, are reducing. The moment we come back and discover or rediscover our poetry, that would be our renaissance. And we need to, because without poetry, humanity will be inhuman. So the earlier we discover our poetry, we will get back to the see all these lines, wonderful lines. They were poetic, and they came out of poetry or a poetic imagination. So when that is lacking, you can't have those kind of lines. So we have to recreate a situation where there are more poets, where there is more poetry, there are more rasics of poetry, and there is a very beautiful by Dhaneshwar, वाचे बर्वे कवित्व कवित्वी ही रसिकत्व रसिकत्व परतत्व स्पर्शु जैसा, which means poetry is greater than prose.
Wow.
A rasik, an appreciator, is greater than the poet, because a rasik appreciates something which has only been imagined by the poet.
Wow, brilliant.
Okay, so he has to actually work doubly hard to get that meaning which has been imagined by the poet. So a rasik is even greater. So can we have a world full of rasiks where we create more and more rasiks who will create the poets in turn? So probably that's the way forward.
Yeah. when there has to be poetry, there has to be pain. Is it necessary? And if it's necessary, then obviously we have a lot of pain around us. So why is like good poetry missing then?
See, you need not suffer pain like the way Van Gogh did, because he actually physically went through that kind of pain. But if you look at two of the other greatest, see, Van Gogh in painting is an absolute giant. But in literature, there is a giant called Shakespeare. Shakespeare didn't go through hell, but he imagined hell. So it is very important to imagine pain. It is important to imagine depression. It is important to imagine anxiety, everything, darkness. Without that, you can't create. But you need not go through it personally, is my personal belief. Because Shakespeare obviously could not have gone through all that he has written about. In fact, he has touched upon almost every human emotion possible. Right from revenge to murder to everything, romance, everything, and in a very different. See, Shakespeare is in the context of emotion, human emotion. In terms of human predicament, there is Vyas. Mahabharat में जो लिखा है, I mean, every conceivable situation is there in that.
Correct.
Whether scientific or unscientific or predicaments. Correct. I'm talking about a predicament. In fact, there is a saying that Vyasochishtam Jagat Sarvam. Whatever is left in the world is all been touched by Vyas. उसका उच्छिष्ट है. वो खाके मतलब चक्के फेंका हुआ है. So he had a great imagination. So he imagined the situation. He never saw them. He imagined the situations. Shakespeare imagined the situations. Van Gogh went through the situations.
Savarkar
went through the situation. So you need not go through it. Sagara Pran Tharmalda can be from imagination.
Correct.
So it is a necessity for you to be the Red Badge of Courage. Stephen Crane का एक American novel है. It describes war in the minutest detail, but he has never been to a war. He has never been a soldier, but he imagined what a soldier goes through. The Red Badge of Courage, Stephen Crane का.
Wow, beautiful.
So you need to imagine. Yes, your imagination is your experience. And Picasso very beautifully said, "Whatever you imagine is real."
Wow.
That's one of his beautiful statements. Whatever you imagine is real. In a dream, what happens? You at that moment, you think it is absolutely, you are going to fall down a cliff. You believe it to be true. Correct? So whatever you imagine is real.
Wow. There's a lot of food for thought here. I think this is a good note to end this. Any concluding thoughts you want to put in terms of how one can handle medium much more with responsibility?
Here again, the thought of McLuhan, medium is the message, comes across very powerfully, because today every single or a majority of news items are being conveyed to you through social media. And where there is no self censorship, there is no finding out whether a piece of news is true or not. So even fake news items are getting the kind of traction that true news or real news should get. So one doesn't know what to believe and what not to believe. So all the more reason in today's world, because journalism is by itself suspect, whether it is print journalism or television, and on top of that he is here a place where it is the birthplace of all fakeness. Social media, because where everybody is anonymous, nobody is owning up any responsibility. At least in a newspaper there is an editor, in the news channel there is an editor, I mean there is an owner, or I mean there is a team of people who are responsible. Here nobody is responsible, anything goes. So all the more reason why one should be doubly careful about what one is spreading as a news item on social media, because medium is the message.
Yeah. Cool. I think that's a great note. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving us your time, and I hope to have you again on AudioGyan for something more interesting, like maybe poetry or your second and third love, first and second love, which is teaching and travel. So yeah, thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
So that's it from today's Gyan session, where we discussed many things with Gangadharan Menon about words, meaning, and is medium really the message. Stay tuned for more Gyan on AudioGyan next week. Till then, bye.